Hey, I'm here today to talk to you about passwords. And I know that passwords can be a frustrating topic for lots of people, including my mother. So let's talk about it. Passwords can be really important because they're how you access lots of things that have to do with money online, from payroll systems to bank accounts. My mother has been hacked so many times this year that her bank will no longer refund money if she's hacked. So she's actually in the process of switching banks because she keeps giving her password to people. So let's talk about that. In addition, I know you guys probably don't care that much because you might not have a bank account and maybe you just make that one secure, right? But you can also have your email and your social media accounts hacked. And from those, someone might be able to get your information to steal your identity, which is much darker and much worse than just stealing money out of your bank account, because then they could open accounts in your name that you just don't even know about and ruin your credit so that you'll never be able to open an account or get a house, or at least for until you get it straightened out, and then for 10 years after, because it might ruin your credit, right? So I'd hate to see anyone start life that way. Okay, so let's talk about how do we create strong and secure passwords. Number one rule, make them long. 16 characters is actually the best length, and I know that's super long, and I'll talk a little more about length. Number two, make them random. So that means we should be using a combination of letters, numbers, symbols, and it shouldn't be something that someone is going to be able to figure out easily about you from social media. So it shouldn't be your pet's name. That's going to be on a list that hackers are going to try first off. In fact, hackers usually, if they're really trying to get into your account, they will probably run a program on your social media and pull the most common words you've said in your social media. Those are going to be people's names, those might be dates, and try those first. And it's just going to be a program that's going to know to do that, right? It's not like a person is individually hacking them. And you should also make it unique. You shouldn't have the same password for everything, because then if one thing gets broken into, they all do. And it's not like some dude is sitting in a cyber center somewhere trying to figure out your password, right? This is not what's happening. It's not like the movies. He's not like, oh, yes, I know Miss Minion's cat name is Fred. No, what actually happens is that a computer is figuring out the most likely password that you have through uh, comparables, through constantly just giving passwords, okay? And here's what that looks like. An algorithm runs, and a computer randomly guesses 4 numbers. It's going to instantly be able to break that faster than you could even type. It will be able to figure out those 4 characters. Even if you're using a combination of letters and symbols, it can do it instantly. Now, if you are using letters, numbers, symbols, and you use 7 characters, we're up to 31 seconds. I still don't call that safe. 31 seconds, that is not that long. If we make it a little longer, 11, we're up to 5 months. Now, someone might not work 5 months, but if we go up to 12, we're up to 34 years. Okay, so that's a little longer. That is more likely. Okay, the 16 character thing is based on something to do with computers and how they do things in 8 bits. So that is 2 bits of information. So it makes it slightly stronger than, just doing like 12. So I'm going to say anything in this black and blue is going to be moderate. Okay. So in general, I would say that moderate, it needs to be longer than 11, right? Longer than 11 characters. And have letters, numbers, symbols, okay? Now to be strong, it's going to have letters, numbers, symbols, and be long, right? Now, if it only has one of these things, even if it only has letters or only has numbers, it's weak, right? Any one of these things is a weak password, okay? Any one. And if it's short, it's going to be weak too, okay? So let's practice some passwords, right? These are some good, really random passwords that don't seem to make any sense. Of course, you shouldn't put your passwords on a sticky note on your computer either, and that's really, I know, a challenge. So let's talk about some passwords. So let's say I use the password Freddie D. Is this a weak, moderate, or strong password? If you said moderate in the middle, you were right. And I would say this is moderate because it is pretty short, but it's not less than 8 characters, right? It's missing numbers and lowercase letters. So we have 2 out of the 4 things we need as far as random variety, right? Also, it's my cat's name. Who is not going to be able to figure out that I might use my cat's name as a password? Now, if I use this password, 0606 2014, how would you rate this? Is this weak, moderate, or strong? This password is actually weak. Remember when we looked at that chart? Even if it is just numbers, it is always going to be super weak. Just because it's so much easier for a computer to randomly guess that. Even though this is 8 characters, it's kind of short. It should be more than that. But it doesn't have lower or uppercase numbers, and it doesn't have symbols, and that immediately makes it weak. It is just easy for a computer to guess that. Remember, this has less options, right? For a number, there's only between 1 and 9 for it to guess. For a letter, it's between 1 and 26. That's why this goes up a lot, right? And now if we have letters and numbers, right? Or letter upper and lowercase letters, it's twice as many, so it's 52. And if we have letters and numbers, upper and lowercase, we're at 62. Once you add symbols, you have a lot more, right? So symbols really do make a big difference, but having all 3 is really important. Okay, so what about this password? What do you guys think? Is it weak, moderate, or strong? This is moderate. And it is a combination of letters and numbers, but it is missing symbols. And it's only 10 characters, so it's not quite all the way there. All I would have to do to make this strong is add a couple of things, right? I could add explanation points. I did a good job. This is a strategy that you can use. Instead of your vowels, you can substitute numbers, right? So instead of putting an O, you put a 0. Instead of putting an I, you put a 1. Instead of putting an E, you put a 3. Because this actually spells Fred Stein. Stein's my other cat, in case you haven't heard about him. Okay. Let's do one more. What about this one? Is it weak, moderate, or strong? You're exactly right. This is a strong password. It is 16 characters. It has letters, numbers, and symbols. And I see that this is a hard password, right? Although it is something I can remember in my head, hashtag Freddie and Stein, right? And 2 explanation points. So I want you to think about the passwords that you use. Maybe not every password needs to have 92 billion years that it would take a computer to figure out your password, but make sure your passwords are not something that can be figured out in 2 seconds or instantly. Okay, I hope you make some strong passwords from here on out. In the next unit or next lesson, you're going to have some activities where you're going to practice this more.